In May of 1970, 4 Kent State students were killed in a confrontation with National Guardsmen in what was later to be called a shooting that was totally inexcusable. That word was used by the members of the Scranton Commission in their final report. Similarly, the FBI report, as reported to the public by the Justice Department, described that shooting as unnecessary. I don't have to tell you about the reams of copy that have followed. One of the tragedies in the history of this nation. And you'll recall, if we can kind of review now for you the sequence of events, it was on April 30th, 1970, that President Nixon went on television to talk about the Cambodian invasion or incursion in an effort to take hold of arms and supplies that the president had said communists had built up in Cambodia. The president said the action was necessary to protect American soldiers fighting in the area. Following that Cambodia speech, there were many disturbances, rallies on campuses throughout the United States, including Kent State. On Friday night in downtown Kent, Ohio, on North Water Street, there were disturbances following ejection of students from bars. There were broken windows, some loud noises, and general public displays of displeasure at the president's speech in Kent. That was Friday night. On Saturday, a rally was held at which time the Constitution of the United States was symbolically buried by some Kent State students. The message clear that it was their view that the Constitution had been ignored in the Cambodian exercise. And then it was on Saturday that the National Guard moved into Kent State. On Saturday night, the ROTC building at Kent State burned to the ground. On Sunday, Governor Rhodes and the mayor of Kent made statements in which they deplored the violence and said that and came out strongly against it and said that they would not tolerate it, and that was the reason for the presence of National Guardsmen on campus. It was on Monday that the confrontation occurred between students and National Guardsmen that culminated in the shooting and the killing of 4 students and the injuring of several others. With me on this program is Arthur Krause of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Mr. Krause is the father of Allison Krause, one of the victims of the Kent State massacre. Also with me is Peter Davies, who is responsible for several articles and this is your second book, I believe.
First book.
This is your first book?
Yeah.
On Kent State, titled The Truth About Kent State, A Challenge to the American Conscience. I want to spend a little time with you, Mr. Krause, having had a number of phone conversations with you. I must say that it's about time we said hello.
Yes, and it's good to see you. I'm sorry it's under these circumstances, but I appreciate your giving me this chance to explain some of the things that I have been trying to do.
Allison is dead now over 3 years. Why do nothing anyone does can ever return Allison to you or the other 3 to their parents or the people who loved them. Why this? There may be some who might, in an embarrassed way, want to accuse you of being vitriolic, of being bitter, and wanting to get the guys that you felt got your daughter. Is that an accurate appraisal of your motive?
Number one, let me say it this way. I knew the truth about Kent State the night that I went to pick up her body. I heard it from some newspaper men when some people were telling me other stories, be what that may be. I also saw a pretty beat young man the day of the funeral when her boyfriend who was with her when she died, who said that the system wasn't worth anything. I said, I'm going to prove to you that this system can work. That's a promise I made this young man. This young man, by the way, contrary to what a lot of other people say, has gone forth. He's making a success in life. And he has some feeling the system can work. You've got to be quite stubborn. I have always been raised to believe that we're a government of law, not of men, and so forth. I am going to do everything I can. If we don't do things when there's something that happens, if we get cast into the role, and I was an unwittingly cast person of having the power to do something to stop the madness that we went through in the 60s. I'm trying to show that our system is good, that we have a constitution which is meaningful, and trying to show a young man that it can work. That's what I'm trying to do.
Are you optimistic?
At this moment, I feel a lot better, considering the fact that Richardson, who was appointed by the president sometime, well, just I guess about May or so, and the fact that he's asked for further inquiry. There's a guy by the name of Pottinger who took a study up on his own, went into this. He's the, I guess, Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights or something.
Stanley Pottinger.
And this man, on his own, went into it. There's so many unanswered questions. The main thing that we have here, if you want to consider me vitriolic or whatever you want to call it, I don't know what that word means, but that's all right. I am upset with leadership. I'm upset with a man like Rhodes, who is using this as a political football, in my opinion. Law and order and all those trite statements that were used so freely back in that particular time. I'm upset with our president, who said he was going to bring us together. That was one of his strong themes. I was hoping and praying that he was going to bring us together after the mess that Johnson had put us through and so forth. But then he comes out with words, using the word bombs, Agnew coming out with words of feet snobs, and Reagan come out with many words which I thought were loosely used. These are men of power. These are men they're put up in the highest place in our country. They have responsibility. When you're the president of the United States, I feel that you have the responsibility to be president of all the people all the time. And it's tough. I'm in management. I don't go out and call people bums when they go out and strike. I may feel this at times, but you have to be careful. You have responsibility.
Arthur Krause, father of Allison Krause, one of the victims of Kent State. Also at hand is Peter Davies. The book is titled The Truth About Kent State, and we hope that on this program you'll join us. Our subject is a book titled The Truth About Kent State. Our guests are Arthur Krause, father of Allison, one of the victims of that incident, and also at hand is Peter Davies, whose name appears in the book as author of this work. I want to talk to you a little bit about what kind of politics did you have, Mr. Krause, prior to the Kent State incident?
Well, I'm from Ohio. I was born in Ohio. My wife was born in Ohio. We lived in Cleveland for about 13, 14 years, I guess. Before that, we lived in Lorraine. I voted for Robert Taft. I also voted for Steve Young. I didn't vote for Governor Rhodes. I voted, I guess, Billy O'Neill.
Yeah.
So whether I'm Republican or Democrat, I'm not sure. I've tried to look at the man in every case.
But do you recall being somewhat upset at what was happening in the early 60s? I guess probably now we've come to agree that the length of a person's hair is a rather unimportant consideration, but it's easy to say now, whereas back in do you recall ever having conversations with Allison about why don't you look like the girls looked when I grew up?
Absolutely. And quite a few discussions on the subject. And I said, you're wearing pants, what are you, turning into a man or something or the other? And I think most of the people my vintage looked at it that way. It wasn't as ordered as we thought. Well, maybe we were raised in a different era. We were raised in an era that things were a little bit harder to get, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't have the time for the worrying about, the Indian situation or the black problem or the problem of the cities and the slums, and the problems of the migrant workers.
Yeah, you said that since this tragedy befell you, you've looked back and kind of reviewed your own attitudes toward tragedies that preceded your own personal one. What was your point then?
Well, take at the time when I heard about the thing down in Mississippi where 3 civil rights workers were buried underneath a manure pile and were killed by policemen in Mississippi, and just very nicely hidden away. And I think it was the FBI that dug up that particular situation or found out the facts about it. I looked at the time when some black kids were killed in a church bombing in Alabama. I remember the Orangeburg thing I didn't learn about until shortly before the Kent State matter, where nothing was done. It wasn't covered very much. It was just some people being killed on a campus in the Southland. They happen to be black people. I looked at all these things. I looked at something else. After the Kent matter, there was the Wisconsin bombing, where a young man was killed. Now, all this time has passed by. Nobody's found that person either. And violence seems to be our way of doing things. I think the Vietnamese situation created a lot of that. I was proud to be in the service of my country. I served it well. It has served me well in most instances. The only time I ever asked my government for anything, and I'm saying that with utmost sincerity, I asked for the judicial process to be followed in the Kent matter. I have not received much reaction up until recently, where Mr. Richardson has got into the picture. I am trying to do something to stop this from happening again. I hope I can do it in this manner. I also got to worry. I think we all have to worry. We got to realize about the people in Kent. There's a town and gown philosophy in we're a large college, and there's a small group of people where people are frightened at the monstrous crowd there. There's 20,000 students there. I remember Kent, when I was in Cleveland, was 3,000, 4,000. So here was 20,000 students thrown into this town, which I guess is about 20,000 population. The people are frightened at students. They're frightened at long hair. They can't quite understand them. Maybe I couldn't understand it completely either. I had my discussions with my daughter about keeping her room clean and those sort of things. I remember Mr. Mitchner said that my daughter would never return to my home. Well, Mr. Mitchner never talked to me, or never talked to my wife, or never talked to my remaining daughter, but he put that into his treatise on the Kent State matter. I was sorry that he did not put down the whole truth in there, because we had just had dinner with Allison just a week before, when we were celebrating her birthday.
Why do you feel it must be terribly discouraging to you to have to even speak to the business of who your daughter was? Apparently, there were some people who were apparently so devastated by what happened that there was, in some folks, a tendency to want to challenge the honor of the victims in order to justify at least partially what had happened. And that had to provide for you most of the pain, or at least...
It provided pain. And then I saw when Ehrlichman told me shortly after my daughter was killed, he says, we're going to have a blue ribbon panel, and we're going to investigate it. I said, Mr. Ehrlichman, I see the beginnings of a whitewash. Please don't let that happen.
Are you sure? Can you say that you're not bitter, Mr. Krause?
I am bitter against our management. I am not bitter I feel the National Guard was put into a situation which they had no control over. When people, their leadership, tell them that the students are bums, when the governor of the state of Ohio opens his mouth and makes the statements he did. Peter, you know what they are. What did he say?
So let me just run a piece of film here. I have a film clip here of statements. Understand the situation now, and it's very tense in Kent. Students' windows have been broken. Appreciate the National Guard has been called. It is Sunday. The disturbances had begun Friday following the Cambodian speech on Thursday. The ROTC building had burned down on Saturday night. Okay, appreciating that situation that existed at the time, here are the statements of then Governor James Rhodes of Ohio and the mayor of Kent. Would you roll that film, please?
The next morning, Sunday, Governor James A. Rhodes, running for nomination to the United States Senate, arrived on campus.
This is when we're going to use part of the law enforcement agency of Ohio to drive them out of Kent. These people just move from one campus to the other and terrorize the community. They're worse than the brown shirts and the communist element, and also the night riders and the vigilantes. They're the worst type of people that we harbor in America. And I want to say that they're not going to take over campus.
Following this statement, the mayor of Kent added,
We'll take necessary. I repeat, all necessary action.
Mr. Davies, Peter Davies, do we not have an obligation to understand and to appreciate what would motivate a public official to make a statement like that? Their response, do they not have a right to legitimately claim that they were concerned about preventing future injury, given the the wild nature of what was happening in that area on the 3 days preceding those statements.
Yes, they have that right, but they also have a responsibility. They have a responsibility in a situation where he knew that you had a National Guard on campus, fully armed, all of them armed, with loaded weapons. This went beyond a speech of concern. It became a rabble-rousing speech.
Why couldn't it be legitimately interpreted merely as a definitive statement intended to warn anybody who had violence on his mind that the administration or the people in authority were not going to tolerate it, and therefore this kind of assertive, definitive statement could serve to prevent future violence?
Well, I can't. To say they're the worst type of people that we harbor in America is, to me, an incredible statement.
I think the governor would argue that he wasn't talking about...
Well, he would say now he's talking about 3 or 4 students, but it's like the president when he was talking about bums. He was only talking about a few, but you can't control the interpretation.
One more question now before the break. Have you made, either of you, any effort, and as difficult as it must be, especially for you, Mr. Krause, to understand the feelings on the part of the people who were not, who were on the establishment side, for lack of a better word? Suppose you owned a bar on North Water Street and you worked hard all your life and you obeyed all the laws and you paid all your bills and you sent your kids to school and you tried to imbue them with values and love of their country and all these other things. And then suddenly, after all this hard work, or maybe you're a widow in a home near that area whose husband is gone, and you're living on Social Security, and inflation is eating you up, and you've got everything you own right around you, and you're trying to keep your house up, and you with minimal, and then suddenly you look out your window, and suddenly young people with long hair, men, you can't distinguish boys from girls. They're wearing tie-dye T-shirts and the flag on the butt of their dungarees. Now, while you and I might sit in a very immature way and say how unimportant that is to us, don't we have an obligation to appreciate how threatening and how much fear that would put in the heart of those people who were in that area?
Yeah, it is frightening. There's no question. Any large-sized crowd in that situation is frightening. But my feeling is that this is a nation of laws, and when the law is broken, you arrest them, you don't shoot them. But most importantly, the 13 students here who were shot on the campus on Monday, none of them were involved. And on Sunday night, that's been established clearly.
How do you read the American public now with regard to Kent State? How do you, what's the feeling out there now?
I think that the feeling is, one feeling is that let's leave it wash away. Let's forget it. That happened a long time ago. Then there's other people that are starting to see what I'm trying to do, or what we're trying to do. Peter's been very helpful. We're trying to make the system work. Maybe the actions that we take in our little way may stop another Kent State from happening. I think there's some people that are starting to believe this.
Arthur Krause and Peter Davies, The Truth About Kent State, and we'll be back in just a moment. We're back with Art Krause and Peter Davies. Hi, thanks for calling. Are you there? Go right ahead.
What at Jackson State, black students got killed. Now, not even like the papers. Like if just because some white students got killed, it was up in arms. But some black students got killed, and nobody said anything. Black students got killed.
Mr. Krause.
Well, in the book that we have here that Peter wrote, in that particular book, we hit the Jackson State matter quite hard, and we also talk about the situation at Southern University. I have worked with the Gibbs family and others down there. I've used the fact that I am white and middle class and middle-aged and have served my country, and I'm fighting just as strongly for the Jackson State situation as I am for the Kent State situation. Beyond that, I just, last Sunday to be exact, I met with Joe Rhodes, who was on the President Commission on Campus Unrest. He was on your program one time. Sometimes you have to take one leg at a time. I cannot help that the Gibbses don't have the wherewithal to do the same things that I can do. The Lord has I've been set into this position. I'm using the talents that I have to do everything possible to stop the Southern universities, the Jackson states, the Orangeburgs, the bombing of Wisconsin. I happen to be a nonviolent person who served his country well in World War II and spent my time in combat, as much combat as most men have ever had. My dear, I bleed for Jackson State too, and I'm doing something about Jackson State. I'm using, if you want to call it that, I'm using my abilities one leg at a time. And you have to do something. You people have to talk out. You have to do it. I can't do it all myself.
Yeah. We have to give her point that it is true that Jackson State has not had the media attention that Kent State has received. And I just think that all of us...
It was a federal grand jury.
No, but I mean just in terms of publicity and the copy and, you know, they didn't do a book on Jackson State.
Neither is Orangeburg. Neither was Orangeburg taken care of. And there's 3 students killed there. Do you know about the Orangeburg situation? And I can only do what I can do as one individual. I am just as sincerely interested in Phillips Gibbs's family as maybe you are. I've helped out the Phillips Gibbses in my own way. Believe me, I have.
I thank you for calling and making that point. Hi, Messrs. Krause and Davies, are you there? Go right ahead.
I'd like to ask Mr. Krause, main question. I was on the campus myself at 10 o'clock that morning. I dropped my son off. I would like to ask Mr. Krause why he talked to his daughter on Saturday and wanted to bring her home. That he did not go home with me. He wanted to come and get her.
No, ma'am, I did not talk to my daughter on Saturday and tell her that I wanted to bring her home. All I said to her was to be careful, that I thought Mr. Rhodes, Governor Rhodes, based upon his past activity, would call out the National Guard, and I said, be careful of them. I wish that I had the ability to look forward and be a seer and be able to see the situation. If I've had then I wouldn't be sitting here in front of you right now.
You didn't.
My son was on the campus that day. He was National Guard. He saw the whole thing. And he is sort of a nonconformist.
God bless him.
He saw what happened.
Well, then he should have... very good. And he can come out and testify in court whenever it gets into court.
He said that he would testify any time, but as to what the filth that spewed out of the mouths of the people that were hurt, that were rushing the National Guard and throwing things at them, he saw it himself, but he would testify to that. But he would never, in a court of law, repeat the foul language that he heard.
You've raised your boy properly. You should be proud of him, and I'm proud of him. He has his right to his opinion.
I truly am sorry about your daughter.
What did you say?
I said I truly am sorry about your daughter and the other 3 victims. I was a volunteer. I'm calling from Michigan. I was a volunteer at Robinson Memorial Hospital. And there's another thing that bothers me, and of course, it's a small thing, but the young technician that James Michener called a liar, she was not a liar, sir.
Okay. Well, we're not going to be able to get into all the allegations and the contradictions that
I understand that, but
I appreciate your call and your testimony, and I would like to try and get some more folks on.
Surely.
I thank you very much.
Thanks, Bill. I enjoy you very much.
Thank you. Hi, Mr. Krause, Mr. Davies, are you there? Haven't much time. Go ahead.
I would like to ask either gentleman what situation or what retaliation our National Guard or what law enforcement agency is set in to disperse a crowd of this size, what actions they should take.
What should they do? What should a National Guard outfit do in a situation like that?
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, the problem here is that there's a misinterpretation of what exactly did happen. The rally at noon was a peaceful rally. It was perfectly peaceful, perfectly legal. There was no martial law situation in existence. Rhodes had not signed a decree. So you had a rally which had assembled and was peaceful, and 300 or 400 yards away there was the line of the National Guard. The problem was when the Guard moved out against a peaceful rally. And that's where I think the whole thing started to go wrong.
There was no rock throwing?
There was no rock throwing until the National Guard made the move to disperse a legal rally. And that's when it all...
The FBI report says this real strongly, and I recommend that you do read the Scranton Commission report, which will spell it out. And Peter's book has it completely documented based upon the Department of Justice summary of the FBI report. I recommend strongly read Peter's book. If you can't get that, go to the library, but read it, and then maybe you'll understand the situation.
And I do have to break. I thank you. We'll be back in a moment with Art Krause and with Peter Davies. The truth about Kent State. Back in a moment. Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to know what.
May I ask you just a question first? Did you live in Ohio at the time?
Yes.
Do you recall how you felt?
Yes, I was very angry. There go the kids again. My husband's working all day. He's going to school 3 nights a week. They're closing his school too. You know, he can't. It was really a hassle. But since that time, I've gone like a 90-degree angle the other way. I can understand the kids better now, really, and I give them credit for being there. But I don't know what you're looking for now. Are you looking for the person who actually fired the gun, or?
I think the information as far as the firing, that's beside the point. If my daughter had walked across the street in a very heavy, say walked on Interstate 75 out here, and got hit, and thrown and killed. And it was her fault. She walked right out to it. If she'd stripped her clothes naked and walked into den of iniquity and got raped, something more would have been done as far as that. All that we had is the situation that we had to blame something. And I'm saying we, because I've had my feelings the same as you have. And we have to blame something, so we blame the kids. But what we have here, we had people using our laws unjustly. You know, the Constitution says there's a right of free assembly. That's in the First Amendment. There's a right of petition. There's the 14th Amendment. All those things are in there. That's what they're there for, to protect you. Maybe your grandchildren will be protected by what I'm trying to do. I don't know. I'm trying to make this country what it says it is in the Constitution. That's what I'm trying to do.
Like I said, at the time, I was really angry with the kids. But now, when I look back and I think, if it weren't for the violence, if it weren't for the kids, we'd be in Vietnam for 100 years.
That's right, and they saw it before you and I did.
And if it weren't for the black riots, we never would give them equality. And yet I'm against violence.
We say we give, yet they have the equality. The Constitution says so. And we have to put all kind of crazy laws in there to try to give what's already in the Constitution. There's something wrong. Let's start living this Constitution. Let's treat it as it really means, because it's what made us different than any other country in this world.
I already know that you're from Mount Victory, Ohio, which is a small town here in Ohio. Hi. Don't be nervous. Ken, may I ask you, do you recall how you felt when you were in Ohio when this happened?
Sure. I was shocked. I was mad at the kids. But as time goes by, I suppose I've softened a little, but still, I think we have laws. They had burnt down the Kent State building, and the National Guard or somebody has to protect the campus. The buildings are paid for by the taxpayers, and it seems to me a lot of times when these things happen. Now, mind you, I feel very deeply sorry about these young people. I have a daughter in college, and so I have feelings too. But it seems to me they feel like they can take it into their own hands. I'm not saying these kids did. There's always somebody innocent is going to be hurt when this violence takes place. And then after the law steps in, and then they're against the law or break the laws, and then they rush to have the law help them out of the situation. You know what I mean? Do you understand what I mean? I see, like I break the law, and then the first thing I do, I run and get me a mouthpiece to protect me.
Yeah. Let's chat, okay?
Okay.
I
would like Peter to discuss that.
Let's see if we get a dialogue going here.
Well, what concerns, I understand what you mean, and it goes back to when you burn a building, then you're arrested, you're not shot. But the burning of the building took place on Saturday, and the shooting took place on Monday. And the two, in that sense, were not connected. The shooting was not done at the moment to preserve a building or whatever. But no matter how we feel about what happened, how can we ignore what the Scranton Commission said? And it was chaired by a Republican. The Scranton Commission, and then the Justice Department summary. Now, and then finally, Attorney General Mitchell himself comes out and says that the shooting was unnecessary, unwarranted, and inexcusable. So how can we let the whole thing just sit without anything being done under those circumstances?
What law do you think those students broke on Monday?
When they burnt the building.
I said Monday. That's when,
on Monday.
What law do you think they broke?
Well, perhaps they didn't break any law on Monday, but they had broken a law. And when things like this happens, I suppose they have to send in protection.
May I say something to you?
Uh-huh.
Have you ever heard of a man by the name of Terry Norman?
No, I haven't.
Well, Terry Norman was an FBI, Department of Justice informant who was we finally found working for the Washington Police Department in Washington, D.C. This man had a gun at Kent State on that Monday. He was also involved at the burning. What he did, I don't know. But there were a lot of strange people at the burning of that particular building, the ROTC building, that night. Now, I don't know who burnt that building. You've heard of Watergate, haven't you?
Yes.
You don't know who's done anything, do you?
I don't know either.
Well,
no,
the reason we have all the things that we're doing throughout any law or any system, let's use the law to do the job. Why has all this, for 3.5 years, I've been struggling to get these facts out. Peter put this book out. This particular book right here of Peter's. That information was given to the Department of Justice in June of 1971, and they tried to throw it under the rug. You have no idea what it's like to try to struggle to get things through this system. And you and I'm a little older than you are.
No, you're not.
But I can assure you, ma'am,
but I believe
we were raised to obey the law. My daughter obeyed the law. My daughter also knew how to swear. Unhappily, I didn't raise her properly. She could say bad words. Is this what you kill people for?
No.
Okay.
No.
But she broke no law. She also said on Sunday, she said something, and she did not put any flour in the bullet in the gun. She saw a flower in a rifle, and she went over and she said she was talking to this, and it was a good rapport between the guardsmen. Do you know an officer came over there and started to berate that soldier? Do you know there was peace to a great degree on that Sunday afternoon? My daughter went and said flowers are better than bullets to that so-called officer. My dear, we have taken our youth, we can be very proud of, because as this lady said, we stopped this horror of what we're going through in Vietnam.
I agree with them there.
And if it hadn't been for them, we'd still be over there wasting our youth and wasting the largesse that the Lord, the God gave us. Those kids made us.
Yeah, but I believe in settling our problems
in a courtroom.
In a courtroom.
Right.
Without more violence.
Right, in a courtroom.
Yes.
All the time.
Right.
Let's start doing it.
Let's do it through the system.
That's right, and that's what I'm struggling for.
But they'll have to stop the riots, and they have stopped to extent.
Yeah, by killing. Is that the way?
Kids have seen this isn't the way to go.
Is that the way to do it, by killing?
Is
that the way to do it, by killing?
No, but I see they brought in the National Guard. These were young boys.
No, they weren't young boys. The boys did the shooting. They were old veterans. Believe me, you didn't know that. I do know it, and it's known in the Department of Justice.
Okay, let me get some. Yes, ma'am. You'll stand.
I discern an accent, Mr. Davies, not native to Ohio. Is that right?
Right.
May I ask what prompted your interest in this? Were you approached to write the book?
No.
How did you become involved?
Well, on May 8th, I wrote a letter to President Nixon. And I came from England in 1957, became a citizen in 66. So I was shocked by it. I just couldn't imagine the British Army shooting down students at Oxford University. So I wrote to Nixon and I expressed my shock and I expressed the hope that he would use this incident to fulfill his promise of 68 to bring us together. This was the moment to really come out and do the job. Instead, he said, when dissent turns to violence, it invites tragedy. So it was from that letter, then a few days later, I decided to send a copy to the Krause family with a note, and that's how I got involved. I didn't know, and I hadn't even heard of Kent State before it happened.
Mr. Krause, you're a Jew. Are you a practicing Jew?
Yes.
What has this done to your faith?
Oh, there was times that I had my faith very strongly jolted, like I think it was in March of 71 when a leak came out of the Department of Justice, and it said that they were not going to do anything as far as the grand jury was concerned. I was talking to Peter that evening. I said, okay, this looks like been about the end of the road. I think that's what I told you. Peter said, well, the church moved into the Orangeburg situation. That's what caused some action down there, little as it was. And I said, well, Peter, I don't think there is a God anymore. Well, just then my daughter came over to me and said, Dad, a Reverend Adams from Washington has been trying to get in touch with you. And that's when the Board of Church and Society of the United Methodist Church joined the fray and helped in. A lot of people could say, why the church? Well, in the book of Peter's, it spells out why the church.
Can you capsule for us, Mr. Davies, what is it about your book that's different? What are you saying in there that you think is significant and new?
Simply that the shooting was the result of a decision just minutes before it occurred, involving probably some 8 to 10, as Arthur said, seasoned veterans, at least in terms of years in the Guard, in terms of riot training. Because all of the investigations that we have, all of the other reports, reach that point that the Justice Department reaches, aside from any questions of specific intent. We don't know what started the shooting. So
you are saying
it is. I'm saying that what started the shooting was a decision, and it came and they turned as a cohesive unit and started shooting at kids 300, 400, 500 feet away.
They who?
They?
How many are they?
Well, it's about 8 to 10, and they're all in Troop G.
And you're saying that there are 8 to 10 National Guardsmen who fired rifles?
Well, the 5 of them have admitted to the Justice Department firing.
And it was not an impulsive move? No. In your judgment?
In my judgment, it's all there. There's nothing.
You're saying that they strategized prior to this confrontation on the campus?
That all the evidence that we have can only be explained by a strategized decision.
And your comment before about a personality that you felt was involved, was the word you used, at the ROTC burning of the ROTC building on Saturday night. And there are pictures of his being present at the time of the shooting. And are you suggesting that he was an agent of some kind, a spy?
He was in Washington on May 1st, 1970. He had been paid by the Department of Justice, the FBI, in previous job just at least a month before. We know that much.
So if I'm understanding your allegation, Mr. Krause, you are without proof saying that it is possible that there was some spy-type personality working in an undercover way to provide information for the government, and beyond that, may have been responsible or somehow involved in the incident on Saturday night?
He may have been involved in the burning of that building.
This is why we need a federal grand jury.
That's what it's all for.
Why has there been no federal grand jury?
What is it? Why are we afraid to put out the truth about this matter? Why could the government be afraid of this? That's the question I ask the American people. Peter has put in, he says the truth. I don't know what the truth is. We don't know the real truth until everybody's had a chance. I haven't been able to. There's been no National Guardsman ever been put on the witness chair except for, who is it, Del Corso and Canterbury?
Canterbury.
Arthur Krause and Peter Davies, back in a moment.
Well, this is a little bit off the beaten track, but what were foreign feelings? Because I lived overseas during this thing, and I never heard anything about it until I moved to the States 2 years ago. Were there any sort of outside emotions beyond the United States?
Where were you at?
Venezuela and Argentina.
Well, in England, I know the reaction over there because I have some friends in England. They sent me editorials and so forth. I have a friend in Hong Kong. They covered it quite well. In English-speaking countries, I think it was more because we have our basic government is based upon the English law.
Why do you think, in view of the Scranton Commission and the FBI report, which certainly was not supportive of what the National Guard did, the fact that it's been clearly demonstrated that the 4 victims, including your daughter, were not engaged in any kind of illegal activity at the time, were students there and had every right to be on the campus. In view of the fact that only one side of this confrontation had armament, why do you think there persists a feeling of hostility toward those who would want to indict the Guard?
I think the problem is this, that immediately after the shooting, there was rumors about snipers. And Del Corso played up the rumors about snipers. And the first impact of everything I think in the mind, the first impact that you get is, well, there must have been snipers there. They wouldn't just shoot people 343 feet away, 700 feet away, 600 feet away, 400 feet away. There had to be snipers there. So because this, and when that mind is made up from that first inception, and then there had been the development of the hatred of our children. This thing, Reagan saying there should be a bloodbath, that would stop the situation. The effete snobs. There's constant words from our leadership. Johnson wasn't getting along good with the students either, or the younger people, because of this horror that we were involved in Vietnam. I think that's the reason. You have to believe the first thing you see.
I have a tape I want to show you, which actually film that kind of encapsulates the scenes that preceded the shooting on Monday. Our film piece, the tape is rolling, our film piece opens on Saturday afternoon. And what you'll see here are stills of the National Guard entering the Kent State University campus in northern Ohio. This is Saturday afternoon. Remember, the president has spoken to the nation on Thursday. On Friday evening, there are disturbances in downtown Kent with broken windows. And now Saturday, the National Guard moves in. Saturday night, the ROTC building on Kent State's campus burns. There has never been a definitive conclusion as to who was responsible for this vandalism. Sunday night, there's a demonstration on campus. Students block a street and stare at the National Guard. The National Guard stares back. Monday morning, there is a rally. A student says this.
The guards were here and all that, and you just didn't know how to handle it. I mean, you're just furious that the guards are on your campus. I mean, why? I mean, I've done nothing, and they're here, and I can't go anyplace. I just couldn't believe my campus had been taken over by the guards. They wouldn't let me cross down there. I just walked around the building and almost walked into a guard with his gun and his bayonet.
Allison Krause is visible to the troops for the first time. Barry Levine, whom she had arranged to meet at the rally and was holding her hand when she was shot, recalled that she was crying, not from the tear gas, but from the emotion of what was happening to her, her friends, and her campus. These are members of Troop G, whose members were the first to fire. General Canterbury orders the men to march back up Blanket Hill. Troop G is on the right flank. Members of Troop G keep looking back toward the parking lot. General Canterbury later testified, as the troop formation reached the area of the pagoda, the mob, located on the right flank in front of Taylor Hall and in the Prentice Hall parking lot, charged our right flank, throwing rocks, yelling obscenities and threats. Stick the pigs, kill the pigs. He continued, practically all the guardsmen were hit by missiles. Guardsmen on the right flank were in serious danger of bodily harm and death as the mob continued to charge. He concluded, in view of the extreme danger, they were justified in firing. This man seems to give the signal. These other guardsmen all shoot at once. Their fire is aimed at the parking lot, not toward the terrace where the mass of students are. Members of Company A fire into the air. General Canterbury moves forward to order the shooting stopped. This is what was happening in the parking lot.
Those scenes are from a film titled Kent State, May 1970, produced by Synthetics Incorporated. The narrator was E.G. Marshall. Anybody? Yes, ma'am. You can remain seated.
Oh, okay. My point is that the Kent State was like many other things that when it was happening to the blacks, it was sanctioned. And now the bureaucracy has continued until we have the Watergate situation, and it's all interwoven. What is your advice to the American people where we can stop the bureaucracy from taking away our freedom?
We have to get ourselves involved. I was not involved. I moved around this country. I saw a lot of things. I was working for a company that moved me around. You have to get involved in all segments of politics. We the people. And that's the advice I give all the youngsters. And a lot of them say you can't work it. You have to get involved. If you're involved, then it's your government.
This is Arthur Krause, Allison's father, one of the Kent State victims. Peter Davies is also here, and we'll be back in a moment. Well, I don't have to tell you about the emotion that's generated on this thing. You really do have my admiration for. I have children too, and I care about where this country is going. And I suppose you would join me in the hope that concerned kids. The book's titled "The Truth About Kent State." I don't want to sound Pollyanna here, but I guess we have to hope, first of all, that young people with misgivings about the system will not attempt, or hopefully will not break windows in an attempt, or shout obscenities, or throw rocks in an attempt to resolve those differences. And at the same time, don't all of us as citizens have an obligation to hope and to ensure that the established authority will not try to solve problems by firing live bullets into crowds of demonstrators?
May I say one thing?
Yeah.
I want to use something from Deuteronomy 16:20, which I think, justice, justice shalt thou follow all the days of thy life, if thou art to inherit the good land that the Lord thy God giveth thee.
Art Krause and Peter Davies. Many thanks to both.